Hi and welcome back. Time flies, and with load shedding and life in general, one does not always get to do everything you want to do. But here I am. I so much want to do more mystery and crime videos, but there is just not enough time in the day to do everything. Maybe one day I'll get to retire and I'll have more time than I actually need. What a dream. Anyway, I was not going to make an Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger video until the preliminary hearing, but I follow a channel called Harsh Reality, which I really like because, as his channel name suggests, he keeps it real. And although he gets a lot of negativity or arguments and flack for it sometimes, he still has a lot of questions regarding the case of the Idaho 4 and Kohberger. And it just so happens that I agree with him. So 2 days ago I made a video in support of Harsh Reality and tagged my own questions onto the narrative. But before I could post the video, we had a power outage and I decided to watch YouTube on my phone as my laptop was not fully charged and I did not want to risk losing unsaved work. Anyway, it must have been some divine intervention, as in the very first video I learned about Bethany Funk being subpoenaed by the defense as allegedly she has some exculpatory evidence. But let's backtrack a while before we speak about that. For me, the two main issues are Dylan Mortensen not raising the alarm sooner and the alleged short period in which Bryan K., an inexperienced killer, allegedly killed 4 young, healthy, fit people. Neither of these two things actually ring true for me. First, we were led to believe that Dylan was also sleeping on the first floor, but then we learned that her room was actually on the second floor, the same floor Ethan Chapin and Xana Knodel were killed on. We are expected to believe that regardless of the fact that Dylan heard noises, regardless of her saying that she saw a man dressed in all black, she went back into her room, slept, and only raised the alarm 8 hours later. It is also worth noting that there is only one bathroom on the second floor, and had she left her room to go to the bathroom, she would have seen the rather grisly scene of Xana and Ethan's struggle and death. So along with everything else, we are expected to believe that she also did not go to the toilet and use the bathroom in 11 to 12 hours or even more. I personally do not believe it. I'm hoping that there will be an explanation once the preliminary hearing or trial starts. More important than even that, we are told that we have to believe that Bryan Kohberger, an inexperienced killer, and I'm saying it again, killed 4 young, healthy, and fit young people in 8 to 13 minutes. Because in short, we know Xana Knodel received a DoorDash at 4 a.m. and was still on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. And we know the white Elantra was seen on camera footage making a U-turn at 4:04 a.m. and leaving the area at 4:20 a.m. So even if we look only at the murders of Xana and Ethan, there is sound from a neighbor's security camera which sounds like a man yelling, and it does sound like he is yelling, "Xana!" And that sound comes at 4:17 a.m. Dylan also says that at 4:17 she heard some talking coming from Xana's room, or the area of her room. So are we now supposed to believe that Bryan killed 2 young people, one who actually fought back and left the home and walked back to his car, unlocked his car, and drove off in 3 minutes? I'm sorry, I just don't. The entire timeline seems to be off. My father was a butcher, and I know that plunging a knife into flesh is not as easy as it's made to look on television. There is bone and muscle to contend with. Had the perpetrator used a gun, I would have been far more accepting of the time frame. But he didn't. He used a knife. Then there is the other question, which no one wants to ask, but I'm going to. Could one of the victims have been saved had paramedics arrived sooner? Here in South Africa was an incident where a woman was raped, stabbed multiple times, and had her throat slashed, yet still lived to tell the story. And one day I will tell you that story. I doubt we will ever know the answer to our question, but I can't help but wonder whether that could have been the reason Dylan did not phone or raise the alarm. Was she waiting for one of the four to die? I know it's gruesome, but a valid question, in my opinion. And what possible exculpatory evidence does Bethany Funk have? And if she has evidence that Bryan is innocent, why wait until she is summoned to court? Why then was it up to a private investigator to find that evidence? And why is there even a question about whether she should be questioned about that at the preliminary hearing? In my opinion, if that evidence can truly exonerate Bryan Kohberger, why did she not go to the police months ago? And if she was questioned by the police, which we know she was, and they knew about this, then why didn't they take it to the DA? Because neither was apparently done. The preliminary hearing will be exactly the place for this evidence to be heard. We don't want to be, say, 3 weeks into the very, very expensive trial, and then Bethany Funk steps up to the witness stand, gives her evidence, and the entire case gets thrown out there and then. Remember, Ann Taylor, Bryan's attorney, earns approximately $200 per hour, and she was just appointed co-counsel, who likely earns the same, maybe $1 or $2 less, but not significant enough to actually bring the price of this costly procedure down. And then I get very angry, just like harsh reality, that people, so-called professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, and YouTubers with big channels, saying and praying that Bethany should not be called to testify at the preliminary hearing. We hear things like trauma and PTSD, etc. Well, that is really, really sad, but in the long run, just too bad. Bryan is also someone's son. He also has siblings, and above all, he has to have a fair trial. If he is guilty, and it is proven beyond any doubt, then he should pay the price, whatever that may be. I could not stress that any more. Any person of sound mind would want justice, not only for the 4 young people who died, but also to protect other potential future victims. No one wants a murderer out on the street, but we should also see the other side of the coin. If Bryan is not guilty, then that means that the real killer is still out on the street, and no one wants that. Of course, people like Harsh and myself get backlash for our opinions, the argument being that Bryan's DNA or touch DNA was indeed found on the knife sheath, which I won't and can't dispute. And I'm not going to argue that he had nothing to do with it, but what if it was a setup? What if someone else did it? Someone who knew Bryan, someone who then called him and said something like, "Hi pal, I find myself in a bit of a situation here. Can you please come and fetch me?" What if Bryan, who is a bit of an outcast and a bit of a loner, and thus more likely to do favors like this, to curry favor and win a friend, drove to the murder house expecting to see his friend waiting. But he wasn't, so he drove past 4 times, etc., maybe then deciding to park and walk to the house to see what is holding his buddy up. And he ultimately walked into that scene. If he knew the person, he or she may even have shown him the knife before. Bryan, being who he is and having studied what he did, likely knew he would be implicated somehow. What if it was because of shock that he drove around for hours? Are there cameras and clear footage showing us that he drove away from the crime scene all by himself, that he was indeed alone in his vehicle? We don't know, but hopefully these things will be answered during the preliminary hearing and or the trial. But right now, I think it's only right and fair that Bethany Funk gives and shares whatever evidence she has, and then may the chips fall where they may. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is indeed my 5 cents worth. I'm still keeping up with the Laurie Vallow trial, and it is becoming more and more upsetting as the trial progresses. And as opposed as I am to the death sentence, in a way I think putting her to death would have been an act of mercy towards her family, Tylee's extended family, JJ's family, and Chad Daybell's family. I have watched many cases unfold, but very few of them as evil as this one. Okay, my dear friends, so I thank you for spending time with me. Please remember to click that like and subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. So until then, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.